So in the process of this, Nabeeha is gone. But we are glad that her 4 sisters are back. Their dad, of course, was also abducted, but was released to go get the ransom. They were escorted by police officers back to the same house where, from their home, they were abducted early January, and they brought them back and took them back to the same home where they were abducted. First, before we talk about the psychological disposition, we hinted on that earlier on the show. But let's talk about this idea of being able to pay ransom directly to bandits or criminals. And the same criminals at their conducive time releases these people. The process of payment, whether directly in cash or the back transfer or any other form, maybe in gold or what have you, or other precious ornaments, and then releasing them. What point do you think the police received these girls? What exactly is playing out with this display of power by these bandits? What are we looking at here? You couldn't trace them. They've been making calls. They've been talking to the family. Ransom money was released at some point and they got it. And now they came. What is going on?
Well, we speak of security architecture. There has to be some kind of architecture here too, because I mean, it's not just the kidnappers alone. I mean, they work with a lot of other people who offer ancillary services, apparently, because they alone couldn't have pulled this off with these kinds of things going on. And for these matters, you would imagine that, you know, the transactions would be in cash, maybe, to prevent any kind of trace, in order not to leave any traces. I'm sure they will insist that, you know, the ransom ought to be paid in cash. And then, you know, I mean, it's heartbreaking when you consider what that family would have gone through in the past 1 or 2 months. It's heartbreaking. I don't know whether to say what the police, because I mean, you ask at what point the police received the family. It's possible that
ransom was, let me see, let's assume it's in cash. Ransom was released. Someone took it. The person is definitely in conversation with the bandits. The person must have said, drop it here, while they are monitoring to see, you know, how they operate. Now, someone, after that was done, came there to pick that money and left. After that person left, they took their time. Like the report said, they didn't release the girls immediately. They took their time before they released the girls. Someone received the girls when they released them. They made a call to someone to say, we are going to release the girls at so-so point, at so-so time. There are communications that took place. When this issue came up, Issa Pantame, the former Minister for Digital Communications, said that the reason why these guys are able to operate easily as they do is because of the inability of the institutions responsible to implement this NIN-SIM policy. If the NIN-SIM policy is not relevant enough to check the excesses of criminal elements in our society, what is the essence of all of this that we invest our money into if these bandits can still operate this glaringly and get away with it? If the banks cannot trace the cash being given to these guys, monitor where a bulk of it is spent, can we really say that anything is being done to check security or the excesses of this criminal element?
Like I said, these kinds of things wouldn't happen without some kind of collusion at the highest institutional levels. And speaking of the NIN-SIM, what has become a debacle now, I think the minister has a lot to answer for it. He was minister for 4 years. So, I mean, why couldn't he conclude or tidy up that process? Why?
He said he did.
Oh, did he? If he did, so why was it impossible to trace? Because, like you pointed out, the abductors were in constant communication with the families. And I'm sure that for these kinds of things, they would insist that there wouldn't be any police involvement. So it's possible that it was after the girls had been released to their uncle, apparently, that the uncle possibly then took them to the police to make a formal report, and then the police will come out and possibly address a press conference, show them to the world, and then, you know. So, but the point is that these things will not be successful without connivance from institutions. And that's where the problem is. There has to be some serious monitoring to track those who provide the enablers of this. It is only when they are apprehended and then some example is made of them that we are going to see the end of this, or we are going to see some kind of severe reduction in the rate at which this happens. I mean, unfortunately, the FCT has been in the news lately for these kinds of, you know, incidents, and it's not good for the image of the nation's capital at all. That, you know, people can't be sure of their security. But it's something that we really need to look at closely and then see if we can come up with a solution. I think it's up to the security operatives now to be alive to their own responsibilities. Actually, one way to do this is also to take steps to see if you can, you know, prevent and not to react afterwards. You can, you know, map out areas where these things occur frequently and then ensure that there is increased surveillance in those places. What about the fact that, I mean, a city like Abuja, for example, does not even have functional CCTV cameras in strategic places?
No, but you see, money has been disbursed to an organization when the Abuja bombing and the Yanya bombing and all of that happened, for a company or a contractor to set up CCTV in Abuja. As a matter of fact, when the 10th Assembly came in, one of the things they said they're going to do is to go back to that contract and figure out who received the contract, why was the job done shoddily and all of that. Up till now, nothing has been heard.
That's a negligence on their part. So, and there has to be consequences for that too. But you see, because there are no consequences, not even at the ballot, because some of those people will still get re-elected. The FCT has a senator, I mean a very vibrant senator with her background in civil society. So one would expect her to be championing this. Well, I'm not trying to, you know, portray her in bad light, but we are not seeing enough of that. I think it's
but that's
basic.
her responsibility,
Yeah,
and I'm sure that's why people also voted for her.
It's basic that, I mean, there are a lot we can do, but for this one, if you put CCTV cameras at strategic places, you're able to monitor. And of course, I don't also want to believe that the streets of Abuja are not lit at night, because if you provide street lighting, you're also going to, because some of these shady characters, and I'm not just talking about kidnappers now, I'm talking about people who also, you know, mock people in the streets.
Yeah.
If they operate under the cover of darkness for the most part, but if the place is illuminated, there are CCTV cameras, that is going to, you know, dissuade them or cut back on their activities substantially.